Most of you guys that put answers in were like right, spot on, or just forgot one little thing. So most of you guys got it right. Very good. Nice job, Andy. So, right, I want to make it as a cube. So, I should probably get a pen. So I have x cubed plus 6 cubed. That means that a equals x and b equals 6. So this is a plus, right? So it'd be x plus 6 times x squared minus 6x plus 36. That one, I believe everybody got right on that one. And the second one, there was just a few little errors on some of them. So if I can factor out a 2 first. So this could become a 2 times 1 plus 64x to the 6th. Oops, x to the 6th. Let's put the parenthesis around the whole thing. And then I can write that as 2 times 1 cubed plus 4x squared cubed. Ugly. A equals 1, B equals 4x squared. So then I'm going to get 2 times 1 plus 4x squared. I think someone forgot to put their square on one of them, if I remember correctly. And then we get 1 minus 4x squared plus 16x to the 4th. Okay? Awesome. Nice job. Very, very good. So next, we're just going to go on to solving. This is pretty easy. If you guys were able to factor everything yesterday, some things are easier than others, but we're going to solve now. So in order to solve, we use what's called the principle of zero products. And it says, I want to make sure that I get it right. Let me look at my notes. Oh, here we go. It says, if A times B equals 0, so if A times B equals 0, then either EITHER, either A equals 0 or B equals 0, right? Basically says if I multiply two things together and equals 0, one of those things has to be 0. And that's what the zero product, the principle of zero product says. So if I look at my problems I have, and some people have already put some answers into the chat box, I have the first number 1 says x plus 3 times x minus 5 equals 0. So I have two things equaling 0. So one of those things has to be 0. So it either, what it means is, what it means is either x plus 3 has to equal 0 or x minus 5 has to equal 0. So one of the two things I multiplied together has to equal 0. And then I just solve for x, right? So subtract 3, add 5, and I get, x equals -3 or +5. So if they're already factored, it's pretty easy. I just set them equal to each other, and then I set them equal to 0 and I solve, and that's it. I want to look at, nice. And I can't go back. Oh, no, it was right there. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat box at some of the answers. So for the second one, I still have two things multiplied together that equal 0. So that means either 3x equals 0 or 2x minus 7 equals 0. And now I'm just going to solve. So first one, divide by 3, and x equals 0. The second one, I'm going to add 7. I'm going to write kind of small since I don't have a lot of room. 2x equals 7. Divide by 2, and x is either going to equal 0 or 7 divided by 2. 7 halves. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do A and B, and I'll just give. So, this A A would be, I would say 3x minus 2 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0. Solve for x, so I'm going to add 2, and I get 3x equals 2, divide by 3, and then subtract 3, and I get x equals 2/3 and negative 3. Okay? And then for b, right, x minus 6 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. Add 6, add 5. X equals 6 and 5. And I don't think anybody missed those at all. That was really good. Good job. Okay, so, okay. Okay, so now we're going to go on to where they're not factored. So the second set here is they're just not factored, so I have to factor it first. I have to do one step more this time. So I'm going to look at my my trinomial, and it's a trinomial because it's x squared minus 3x minus 18, and I'm going to use I use my little graphic organizer, and I say give me two numbers that multiply to be negative 18 and add to be negative 3. So two numbers that multiply to be negative 18 and add to be negative 3. I think that's going to be negative 6 and positive 3. Yeah. So this factors to x minus 6 times x plus 3. And once I have it factored, now it's exactly like what I've been doing for the previous 4 problems. I have two things multiplied together that equal 0. And so one of those things has to equal 0. So I've got, let's see, x minus 6 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. So add 6, subtract 3, x equals 6 or negative 3. Questions? Anybody have any questions so far? Are we doing okay? All right, so, I think I can factor a 2x out. Let's see, a 2x out of that. Because there's not 3 terms. I'm not going to, there's not a 0. Yeah, so I think I just need to factor a 2x out. Sorry. 2 goes into 6, 3. Is that right? Yeah. And 2 goes into 8, 4. Wow. So now I have, let's see, 6x squared, yes, negative 8. Okay, so I have two things multiplied together, again, just like what I've been doing. So I've got 2x equals 0, or 3x minus 4 equals 0. So divide by 2, add 4, 3x equals 4, divide by 3. X is going to equal 0 or 4/3. Okay, so now I want you guys to do the last two on this page. Let me finish this section here. Let's see, I'm going to slide it over a little bit. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 14 and add to be negative 9. And I think that's negative 2 and negative 7. So this factors to be x minus 2 and x minus 7. So then that means that either x minus 2 equals 0 or x minus 7 equals 0. Add 2, add 7, x equals 2 or 7. And everyone that answered got that right. Good job. And then the second one, again, I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 4 and add to be 3. And I'm pretty sure that's 4 and negative 1. So I've got x plus 4 times x minus 1 equals 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. Subtract 4, add 1. X is going to equal -4 or +1. And again, everyone that I saw that put in an answer got that correct. Very good, you guys. So we're going to go on to the second section. Still doing the same thing. Only this time I have to make sure before I factor everything's on the same side of the equal sign. And then I'm going to factor and solve, doing exactly what we just got done doing. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And then I get x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. Now that everything's on the same side of the equal sign, I'm going to factor. So I need two numbers that multiply to be -21 and add to be -4. So I think that's -7 and +3. So x minus 7 times x plus 3 equals 0. So x minus 7 equals 0 or x plus 3 equals 0. So that means that x is going to equal +7 or -3. And then same with this one. I just have to get everything to the same side of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 7, and then I get x squared plus 13x plus 42 equals 0. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 42 and add to be 13. I think that's 6 and 7. Yeah, okay, good. And that gives me x plus 6 times x plus 7 equals 0. So either x plus 6 equals 0 or x plus 7 equals 0. So that tells me that x is going to equal -6 or -7. Okay, so you guys' turn. I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and I get x squared plus 9x plus 14 equals 0. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 14 and add to be 9, and pursue that 7 and 2. So x plus 7 times x plus 2 equals 0. So either x plus 7 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0. So x is going to equal -7 or -2. For the second one, subtract 6x. So I get x squared plus 14x plus 48 equals 0. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 48 and add to be 14. Pretty sure that's 8 and 6. So x plus 8 times x plus 6 equals 0. So either x plus 8, oh great, x plus 8 equals 0 or x plus 6 equals 0. So x is going to equal -8 or -6. Okay, and then I think this is our last set. This is where a is not able to be factored, right? Well, I can factor something out of this mess on this one. I can factor a -x out first. So if I factor a -x out, I'm going to get 8x squared plus 10x plus 3, and that's going to equal 0. Then I need to factor what's inside the parenthesis. And for me to do that, I'm going to come over here so I can use some of the space over here. I'm going to use the box method for me because it makes sense for me. So I've got 8x squared and 3. And then remember, I need two numbers that they still have to add up to be this middle number, 10. But they need to multiply to be 8 times 3, which is 24. So So I need two numbers that multiply to be 24 and add to be 10. 6 and 4. So that'll be 6x and 4x. And then remember, I'm going to factor these now. I'm going to factor the rows and the columns. So let's see. What goes into 8x squared and 6x? So that should be 2x. And what goes into 4x and 3? That should be 1. And then this should be 4x. And this should be 3. And then remember, you can check it to see if your multiplication is right? 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 4x times 1 is 4x. And 3 times 1 is 3. So we know that this is going to factor to, it'll be negative x. So I can't forget that negative x out there. And then 2x plus 1 times 4x plus 3. And that equals 0. Now I have more than two things multiplied together. I have three things multiplied together and they still equal 0. That means each of those things has to equal 0. So instead of having two answers, this time I'm going to have three answers. So I have either negative x equals 0, or 2x plus 1 equals 0, or 4x plus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to have three possible answers here. And how I usually tell how many answers I'm going to have, just as a kind of let you guys know, is whatever my highest exponent is, usually tells me how many answers I'm going to have. So if I have an x squared, I'm going to have 2 answers. If I have an x cubed, I'm going to have 3 answers. If for some reason we ever get to x to the 4th power, I would have 4 answers. So that kind of tells me how many answers I'm going to have. Hope that helps out a little bit. So for the first one, I'm going to divide by negative 1, and then I'm going to subtract 1, and I get 2x equals negative 1, divide by 2, and this one I'm going to subtract 3, and I get 4x equals negative 3, divide by 4. So that means x is going to equal 0, negative 1/2, and negative 3/4. Okay, so 3 answers. Is there any questions? Everyone okay so far? Awesome. So let's go to number 2, and we're going to do basically the same thing. I don't have an extra x. There's nothing in common in all 3 terms, so I don't have to factor anything extra out. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this here, and I get 7x squared and 10, and then I need 2 numbers that add up to be negative 19, great, and multiply to be 7 times 10 is 70. Oh, okay, I wonder if it's 5. I bet it's 5. 70 divided by 5. 14 and 5 is 19, yeah. So negative 5 and negative 14. So negative 5x minus 14x. And now I'm just going to factor, right, my rows and my columns. So I think this one is just x. And this one is going to be negative 2. And this is going to be 7x. And this should be negative 5. That gives me positive 10. Yep. So this should factor to x minus 2 times 7x minus 5. So I've got x minus 2 equals 0, or 7x minus 5 equals 0. Add 2. Add 5. So I got 7x equals 5, divide by 7. So x is going to equal 2, or 5/7. Okay. A little bit harder on these ones because it's a little more involved, but it's stuff that we've already factored before. We've done this before. So I'm going to give you a little bit more time on A and B. On the first one, let's see. I've got 5x squared and 8, and then I need two numbers that add to be 13 and multiply to be 40, which is 5 and 8. So it's 5x and 8x. So let's see, that gives me a 5x here and an 8 and an x and a 1. So that means this factors to 5x plus 8 times x plus 1 equals 0. So that means either 5x plus 8 equals 0 or x plus 1 equals 0. So subtract 8. 5x equals negative 8. Divide by 5. Subtract 1. So x is either going to equal negative 8/5 or negative 1. Okay, and then for the second one, I've got to subtract 14 first. So I get 6x squared minus 17x minus 14 equals 0. And then I've got, let's see, 6x squared and negative 14. I need two numbers that still add to negative 17, but multiply to be negative 84. And I'm pretty sure I got negative 21 and 4. So negative 21x and 4x. So let's see, this multiplies to be 3x and 2, and then 2x and minus 7. So this factors to 3x plus 2 times 2x minus 7, and that equals 0. So that means either 3x plus 2 equals 0 or 2x minus 7 equals 0. So subtract 2, 3x, divide by 3, equals, divide by 3, add 7, 2x equals 7, divide by 2. So x is going to equal negative 2/3, and that doesn't look like a 2, negative 2/3 or 7/2. Okay, so there's that's it. That's all there is.